Bro, here she fucking is again, Anya Taylor-Joy. How does this keep happening? How does she keep showing up everywhere? So yeah, the menu. Have you guys seen that movie, Midsummer or Midsommar or whatever? That shit was so weird and like out of nowhere. And these girls showed it to me, and they were like, "Oh, we love this movie. This is like our fifth time watching it." And I'm sitting there like, "Oh yeah, totally." But really, I'm thinking like, "Oh fuck, these girls are trying to like they're trying to convert me into Satanism or something." Yeah, this movie gives me the same energy as that one, but it's not as freaky. It's kind of nowhere near as well made. In the beginning, they make it clear like, oh, only the most like elite of the elite can dine here, but it's $1,250 a person. Bro, that's actually not that much for like the supposed experience of a lifetime. Like, there's Airbnbs that are booked out for months that cost 2 grand a night. You don't think someone on vacation at one of these places might be like, ah, fuck it, let's do a 1 grand a night place because it's still like almost as good, and then go to this like legendary restaurant and still have plenty of money left over to spare. Like, honestly, if you make $3,000 a month to spend on entertainment, disposable, which is like upper middle class, but it's not unreasonable, this place just became affordable to you. That's like, you can be a garbage man and afford to come here. I don't get how this is like richest of the rich. And especially if you want this movie to age right, you gotta adjust a little bit for inflation so it makes a little more sense in the future. I don't know why you wouldn't make it like 15 grand. I think it's just like a lack of understanding. That's usually the problem with people who are like cynical 1% haters. They don't understand that they actually just hate everyone. They really just want to be the 1%. The movie's obviously like it gets, metaphorical, right? But I can't really get invested enough to dive deep to and think like what the metaphor actually means, because there's zero likable characters for me to, resonate with. Maybe the metaphor is like, I know whatever the message I'm going to take out of the movie is going to be like, the people who wrote the movie, the writers of the movie are going to be like, actually, that's not the correct interpretation. Whatever it is, whatever I end up saying. Because like this shit doesn't resonate with me. Like, I don't know. If I go to some McDonald's and the employee like shoots themselves in the mouth because they got an order wrong, I'd be just confused. I wouldn't be like, oh, this says a lot about society. This is a social commentary on people who sacrifice themselves for their art. Like, no, I would just be like, yo, this makes no sense. If the theme of the movie is like, retain your love for art, don't let the temptation of riches and like proper high society shit like consume you and destroy your artistic integrity. If that's the theme, then it's like, who the fuck are they making the movie for? I'm not rich. I'm not posh. In fact, I'm so anti that. I was annoyed at the fact that they went in wearing suits, which is like something that nobody ever complains about. I was annoyed at the fact that they made their hair to go in there. Like, if I'm gonna have the food of my life, I'm gonna go in clothes that feel good. Probably some like sweatpants and some oversized t-shirt. I'm as anti-posh as it gets. I don't take pictures. I don't chase perfection. I even made a video claiming that like what's wrong with the entire world is people want to be experts when really they should always be beginners and like always have the mindset of amateurs. They should enjoy the journey, not the destination. They shouldn't strive for perfection. But guess what? I want to go to this restaurant and I would save up for it. Do I deserve to die for that? I don't feel like I'm entitled to any like, oh, I'm entitled to this food that nobody else can buy. I feel like I'm entitled to buy the food that you told me you will give me if I pay for it. And then I pay for it. Then I'm entitled to that food. And that's not entitlement. That's called being reasonable. I don't understand this whole like eating the rich ending. Like, bro, if a restaurant like this existed, legit almost everyone that would go would be the foodies, not the people who just want to show out. Like, rich people would value their time. They're not going to waste an entire day going on this like boat ride, doing all this extra shit. They just get some chef to come to their home and make the same food for them. And this movie's mad pretentious. Like, to say that like the way that someone else loves an art form is the wrong way to love it, that's like the definition of being closed-minded. Even in the end, like it would have made more sense for the chef to make good food for everyone and be like, man, look, I've been messing up. Let me make some good food. And he shows them a taste of how good it actually is. And then they realize like, oh shit, this is way better than we thought. Fuck all this other shit. Let's enjoy this food. But I guess that kind of message would resonate with the people who actually don't like the movie because they'd realize how soulless and corporate the movie actually is. But the people that actually enjoy this movie would not resonate with that kind of movie, because if you show them the great work of art that you'd make, they'd be like, yeah, I like the pretentious shit more. So I guess it makes sense. People who enjoy this movie are actually the real villains of the movie. Unintentionally, of course. I don't think this movie intended for that to be the case. I think the movie was just not very well thought out. Because it's like, bro, they're not even given the opportunity to enjoy like the real art food or whatever. They're not even they're in fact they're discouraged from doing that. Like, you invite people into your domain as an artist, they will mirror your energy. If you have bad energy, if you have perfectionist energy, that's what you'll get right back. If anything, the entitled one is the chef, because he's basically like, it's like, oh, if you want artists to treat you right, then you have to give them something back in return. But no, I said it in my review of Feel Is Good, man. Artists are not entitled to shit. They are they are the slaves of society. I'll talk about this more in my definition of art video, which I'll also leave in the description. But artists create for their audiences out of compulsion, regardless of whether or not the audience enjoys it. To say that like you have to enjoy your art in a certain kind of way and the only good person is the person who gives something back to the artist. She didn't even do it out of a desire to give back. Reciprocity, like I donated to Etika unprompted, or the way that like FaZe buys all this GBE merch. Like, no, she did it just to save her skin, not because she was grateful. If the moral of the story is like, don't judge artists, they should be able to work without judgment because they're fragile, then that's exactly why you judge them. You break them and let them build themselves back up. And if they have destructive tendencies, then they're just not fit to be artists. But if they can go on their own journeys, break and come back stronger, and create great art in the process, then they're truly great artists. Why do you think every great album was made after a heartbreak? But instead the chef is like, no, don't judge me, I'm scared. And really, like, even Midsommar or whatever actually had some like mythology to it. Like, it might be worth diving deeply into, actually, surprisingly. But in this movie, they just like spell it all out for you. Like, oh, you went to school with your parents' money? Yeah, you're dead. Like, what? So let me ask you this. Let's say she didn't. Let's say she went into debt. Let's say that was her answer. Then would you be like, oh, you get to survive? And then she's like, oh, okay, great. I'm going to make something of my life now. And then she goes and graduates and builds her, her life and acquires some wealth, and so that way she can give her kids a good life. Then she has kids. Those kids grow up. She decides to send them off to college and she pays for it so they don't have to go into debt. Does that now make those kids evil? Do her kids deserve to die because their mother lived an admirable life? Like almost every second gen business fails, right? Like, wealth changes hands from one group to another completely. Like, it shifts completely like every 2.5 generations. Privilege doesn't actually hold all that much water generationally. Like, generational wealth is actually kind of a myth. As much as people might like to think that it's not, they might like to think that, oh, if your parents are rich, then you'll be privileged, and then your kids will, and your grandkids. It's actually not all that true. And what exactly are they trying to say with this? Like, that it makes you good, it makes you a good person and deserving of living if you go into student debt? Like, is this movie really trying to convince people that, like, taking on debt in this shitty system will make them a good person? Like, what kind of psyop bullshit is this? This movie was made by overly pretentious and bitter artists who are angry at the 1% for ruining art, but really that's actually them. Like, they're the ones ruining art. And look, they got Hank McCoy and Anya Taylor-Joy in the movie. Like, they are the 1%. Stop fucking complaining and make better movies, because the only people you have to complain about is yourselves. You could have easily made this a short film with a budget of like $2,000 and released it for free on YouTube. And that would have really actually helped your point here, if you really wanted to make this point. And honestly, none of this really even matters, because if the people that made this movie see my review and they don't like my review, they're like, oh, you're wrong. Just know I'm like Margot and you're like the chef in this situation. I'm criticizing your oh so great art that isn't actually all that great and is really corporate soulless garbage. So if you're a true artist like the chef, then you should cry and you should think back to your old artist days, and you should give me what I want, give me what I ask for, and respect me for pointing out your failures. So yeah, this movie sucked. But hey, the food looked pretty nice. 1 out of 10.
It's Filthy Frank, motherfucker. It's Filthy Frank, bitch. Let's get some pussy tonight.
I need my love. This is good enough.